just are letting people in from the lobby. It's 11:01 right now. I think we're going to give it another minute or so just to make sure people have a chance to join before we really start chatting. We will be recording this meeting so that it's available for people afterwards to go back and watch if they're not able to attend in person. And I'll repeat all this again in case people join in a few minutes, but we'll start off in a minute or two. Thank you for your patience. Okay, I think we have one more person coming in from the lobby right now. We've got a really solid group of people from Shaw and otherwise, so it's nice to have you all join us. A couple more folks are joining right now. Okay. I think it is 11:02. We'll go ahead and get started so that we can stay on time. Thank you again to everyone from Shaw and elsewhere who's joined us today. This is a meeting focusing on the continued future of public works road maintenance on Shaw Island. The county folks that are here will do a little introduction of ourselves. We have a presentation brief that we will be sharing, and then we're really just going to open it up to Q&A from the community. I will be facilitating this conversation on all of your behalf, just to make sure we don't all talk over each other. At this point, we've got 34 people who are joining, so making sure that we do kind of an orderly process for Q&As will make sense. I will pass on over to Councilmember Fuller, though, in case she has anything else she'd like to share before we start our presentation and do more introductions.
Okay, thank you very much, Jessica. Our esteemed county manager, Jessica Hudson. My name is Jane Fuller. I am the San Juan County Council person for District 3, which includes Shaw Island. But with my seatmates, we all serve everyone in San Juan County. And I wanted to just, introduce myself to those of you who've not met me before, and just provide a little bit, very brief couple of minutes of background context to the meeting. I want to say thank you heartily to everybody who's joining us today. I'm very impressed to see this number of Shaw Islanders who are here, given that some of you travel in the winter months and can't always be available for meetings. So I wanted to explain that we shifted the meeting to online in part because of the expressed will of some people to attend, but people who could not attend in person. And Shaw being quiet as it is in the winter, it seemed best just to put this meeting online, allow for as much participation as possible. I wanted to make sure with my colleagues that we're recording the meeting. So Aaron Andrews, our communications coordinator, I expect will ensure that the proceedings are recorded so that there's a record for those who can't be here today. Ideally, we like to meet with you all in person because in-person meetings are favorable always, but this serves the bill, so that's how we are all here today. I wanted to provide you the background context by way of what I have heard from Shaw Islanders in the 3 years that I have served on council. I stepped into my role in January of 2023, and not long after began to have in-person community meetings on Shaw Island and began to get to know some of you. I would say that an interest on the part of Shaw Islanders for the county to do some basic public works road maintenance first arose as a subject of conversation on Shaw Island with me back in 2023. So I first became aware that there was an interest on the part of people who live on Shaw or part-time on Shaw, visit Shaw, that some of the roadworks needed to be given attention to, because the county had not done public works roads maintenance in some time. So this is not a recent issue that has come up to me as a council person. And so I was aware of this. I've discussed it with Colin Huntemer, our Director of Public Works, a number of times over the course of the last couple of years, as he briefs me regularly on ongoing works that his department is responsible for across the county and across respective council members' districts. So I was aware that some work needed attention. And I had a chance to speak briefly with one or two of you at the meeting that was held last on Shaw that I went to, which was a sea level rise conversation. And that meeting was held in the latter part of last year. If I'm not mistaken, it was in November. We had good participation and an engaged audience at that meeting. And it was there that I had the chance to mention that there might be some imminent need for some road maintenance given the calendar that Public Works maintains annually for its works across the county. So the request that I had from more than one resident when I mentioned that to a couple back in November was, if there's going to be work done on the roads on Shaw, could you please do us the favor of letting us know when, what that looks like, what to expect, so that Shaw Islanders have advance notice and we have a sense of what the county plans to do, when, why, where. So this meeting is in response to the request that we provide information to the community up front about what needs to be done. We can give you some technical information on that. We can put it in the larger county context of ongoing public works mandates and requirements vis-a-vis maintaining county roads. And that's what we're here today to do. And obviously to discuss with you what impacts can you expect, and how will those be managed, and who does what in that regard. So that's we're wanting to be available to you to explain what needs to happen and why, and to field your questions and explore ways in which we can best manage and execute the works. So with that, I will hand it back over to Jessica, who's volunteered to facilitate for us. And maybe staff could just introduce themselves really briefly, and then I don't know that we've got quite a number of folks on the call, so maybe we'll just understand that everybody's got a stake in Shaw Island, and that's why you're all here. And but when you raise your hand to ask a question, if you could just introduce yourself when we get to that portion of the meeting, so we can just know who you are, that would be wonderful, and see your face if possible. And we look forward to a productive discussion. And we, of course, will always be available to reach out to after the meeting at another time. So that's my introduction. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Jane. As Jen mentioned, my name is Jessica Hudson. I'm your county manager, and I'm going to help foster along our proceedings today. In the chat, we have a little note. All the mics are disabled right now, just so we can go through the presentation portion. When we get to the section for Q&A, it's up to individuals. If you want to speak, you have a little hand raised button. You are also welcome to put your questions in the chat, and we'll take them one by one that way. We have 3 additional staff here today. Erin Andrews, who is our countywide communications coordinator, is recording and will be taking notes so that we can issue some press afterwards if needed. Colin Hunter, Public Works Director, who will be leading a presentation, gave you a little wave earlier today. Jerry Hayes, who is our operations superintendent, is currently with his video off, but is listening in. And then Nick Jones, who is one of our Public Works employees and helps us out on Shaw. So I'm going to mute myself for a little bit and let Colin take the show. He's going to be talking a little bit about the work we anticipate having happen on Shaw over the next couple of years.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I'm Colin Huntemer, Public Works. I have been here a number of years, but I think this is the first time I've done a community meeting regarding road maintenance activities. But for the reasons, particularly that Jane mentioned, and how long it's been since we pushed into Shaw to do some serious work, I certainly feel like it's appropriate to have this community meeting ahead of our planned work. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I just have a few slides for you, but with the 45 people I see attending this meeting, we're certainly going to allocate a bunch of time afterwards to answer any questions that may come up. But we're talking about a couple of years of planned work here. The first starting in February and March of 2026, where we're going to push back in for our road maintenance program. And those of you may be very familiar, but when we're talking about road maintenance, we're talking about some of the basic functions of cleaning our ditches, replacing our culverts, pulling our road shoulders, which is the accumulation of vegetation that appears along our county roads. Roadside vegetation maintenance, sometimes it's overhead, sometimes it's along the side of the road. Those types of regular maintenance activities which occur throughout the county and have not occurred in a meaningful sense on Shaw in quite some time. So in February and March, we're looking to do some preparation and mobilization on our Blind Bay facility. That's at 1385 Blind Bay Road. I'm sure everyone knows where that is. And I have a graphic just after this, and I'll show what that looks like on that property. But primarily it is the bringing in of materials, the creation of a new material storage bin, and some staging of equipment ahead of what will be an April, May road maintenance season on Shaw. So that'll happen intermittently throughout those 2 months, but that's when you'll see crews from other islands mobilize in. You'll see some familiar faces there too, and we will do some of our bigger work intermittently through April and May. As we approach June, those forces will then move back out as we start our annual chip seal program, which this year occurs on other islands. And we will be off Shaw with our road maintenance program. But all of that work sets the stage for coming back in 2027. With having done that spring road maintenance work, we now have some miles of road, which are then available and ready to be chip sealed. And so our chip seal program is a summer program. There is some touch-up work that happens in the spring where we sweep the roads and we make sure that there's any spots that were missed or need some more attention from the previous year's work. We come back and we touch those up. And then generally in June, weather dependent, and depending on how we cycle through the islands, we will come with a chip seal program on Shaw. So it's to do chip seal, you have to do some maintenance work ahead of it. And that's what we're planning to do in 2026 and move to chip seal in 2027. And I did include a note here, but the last time that we did our chip seal program on Shaw was over 10 years ago, 2015 and 2017. Some of you probably remember that. This next graphic, it just illustrates where we plan to do road maintenance activities this year. The roads highlighted in that reddish color are where we're going to do intermittent ditching, shoulder pulling, and some of the vegetation management we talked about. And then there's a number of culverts here. I hope to get all of these done in 2026. And you can see that those culverts are either adjacent to or largely through these areas where we plan to chip seal, because obviously we don't want to chip seal a road and then come back later and tear up the pavement to replace a culvert. So this is how our program normally works throughout the county, is we will replace those culverts ahead of a chip seal program. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 shown on this map, and 3 to 4 miles of road maintenance activities. And then moving on, the site preparation of Blind Bay Yard. Let's make this a little bit bigger. So this is our construction yard in Blind Bay. We have, I think it was like in 2009-ish, possibly, when we created the chip seal storage bin down on the southern portions of the property. Right now, that bin just has some residual from our last chip seal program, but that will start to fill up this year as equipment moves to the island. Trucks will show up full, and they'll be emptying and filling up that bin with clean chip rock. It is really important that our chip rock have an isolated and contained facility so it doesn't get contaminated with other material. We can get a good pavement. So that will be filled up with chip rock. And then, of course, we will also need another bin where we will deposit the other things that we talked about in road maintenance activities. That includes the ditch spoils, shoulder pullings, when we do culvert replacements, we will tear up the pavement, and so the reclaimed pavement will get stored there too. There may be some woody debris and some crushed aggregates. When we cut open a road for a culvert replacement, we need to bring back imported rock, and so we will temporarily store some of that material there. You will see culvert pipe, you will see temporary asphalt patching pavement, some other materials appear. Some of those will be inside, some of those will be in the yard, but you're going to see a lot of activity slowly start to show up in those first couple months ahead of our maintenance program. Another graphic of where that is. This bin, the construction of it will look very similar to the bin you see here for Chiprock. You know, it's going to be formed up with ecology blocks, and it may have separate compartments depending on the operational needs of the road maintenance division. Okay, so like I said, this is the first time I've had a discussion about road maintenance activities, so there's not a whole lot here to talk about, but I would like to open it up to questions, and there's a few of us here, myself, and then Nick, who's joining on this call. We'll do our best to answer any questions you may have. And this graphic here is just an example of a road cut that we do to replace a culvert, and I'm just going to leave that up there as we answer some questions.
Actually, Colin, if you wouldn't mind taking the PowerPoint down just so that we can see if people have their hand raised in the group.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So for folks that have questions, we would like to do this in an orderly fashion. So as I see questions crop up in the chat, I'll just read them aloud in case people either don't have the chat enabled or have some visual impairments. We'll answer those. If you would like to verbally share a question, use the little hand raise icon. If you look on the top of your screen on the right side, for me, it's the third button over. It's a little hand and it says raise underneath it. But either are equally fine. So I'm going to start with the first question, which came to the chat from Kate Hardy, that says, is the new storage bin a temporary or permanent addition? That's a question for Colin.
Great. And I probably should have touched on that, but I think the community is generally aware that the Public Works Department, with the support of the County Council, is looking for another property on Shaw to site road maintenance activities. But until that property is available, we will need to utilize this space. So it is intended to be a temporary occupation of that property. The bins, as they are constructed, can be deconstructed in the same manner, and the material that is stored there can easily be relocated. So it is temporary until we have another location that is properly sited for those activities to occur. But then once something like that is obtained, we certainly intend to deconstruct this bin and remove the materials which are stored there.
Okay, thank you. Question 2 is from Brian Lynch. Will the new storage bin require the removal of our recycle bin? I believe it's the ones up at the north side of the property.
Yeah, so as shown in, I want to share my screen again, but as shown
you can share it again. You can share it
Okay.
again. I found a different way to track the little raised hands.
So as shown here, it does sit very close to where those recycling bins are. I did have a conversation last week with the Shaw Islanders Inc. board. Of course, they are a private organization. And the bins do occupy and encumber the public works yard. And so it is my understanding that the board is going to meet later this month, and they intend to have a conversation about the future of those recycling bins. And I am available certainly to follow up with the board after they meet. And I would encourage people who do have questions or concerns with that to discuss it with Shaw Islanders Inc.
I don't see any raised hands, so I'm just going to keep going through the questions in the chat. Question 3 is from Jan Sandberg. Is CenturyLink aware of the blocked access to their shed near their current recycle bins?
I have not spoken to CenturyLink, but their facilities there are not blocked off, so they can still access their facilities as they need.
Okay. Question 4, Jane Chamberlain. Is all parking going to be blocked off?
Well, as shown on the screen, the areas that we need for Public Works operations are not available for parking. So it is a construction yard for Public Works operations. So depending on the nature of the parking you're talking about, and if it's parking for activities with Shaw Islanders Inc., again, there is an upcoming board meeting that Shaw Islanders Inc. is going to be having, and I would encourage you to reach out to them regarding parking for their functions.
Next question, also from Jan Chamberlain. Does the runoff come out from under the bins with the debris?
So very similar to the bin that you see currently constructed for Chip Rock, it will be the same character of runoff for this new bin. So I expect no difference in what you experienced or what you have seen on site that has existed for about 10 years with the Chip Rock bin. It'll be a very similar type and function, just with different material.
That is currently all the questions that are in the chat. Oh, here's one more. Next question is from Amber Borner. What needs to happen before you have access to another property? And when does the county anticipate having access to the other property? I can start that topic. As this group, I believe, knows, the county has purchased another property, and the property is not currently able to be utilized. We're continuing a conversation about that space and about when we might be able to use it, or if we might be able to use it. I don't know that we have an anticipated use by date. So part of the reason that Councilmember Fuller, Cullen, and myself wanted to ensure that we had some open dialogue with the community is there are public works basic road maintenance needs on Shaw Island right now. And we own this property on that you're looking at the graphic of right now. And this is the space that we have available and can utilize to engage in our basic public works services. So I don't think that the county can provide a concise response on this. We don't know when we would be able to use the property on Neck Point. And I don't know that we could give anything definitive than that at this point. I'm sorry. I don't know if I don't know if there's anything else Jane or Colin might want to share on that topic, but that's about what we can say on that. Yeah. Okay, next question, also from Kate Hardy. Will the new storage area be emptied and refilled periodically, or once it's filled, does it just stay there and any additional debris just goes elsewhere? Good use of ellipses. I like that one.
So that's another good question. Right now, we have sized this bin to accommodate the next few years of road maintenance activities I showed, which was 26 and 27. So the bin that's constructed here it's going to be full-ish. It's hard to know exactly how much material will generate from road maintenance activities, and we'll see what happens after a couple of years. But there is the only way that bin would be emptied is if that material was able to be relocated to another county property. So that's what we are working hard on, is trying to site another place for this activity to occur. But until that time, that material will, there's no other place to put it.
Thank you, Colin. Next question is from Jan Sandberg. Is the current bin at the south boundary not large enough to hold dirt and debris? It is mostly empty at this time, seems like a lot of room there.
Right. So I tried to touch on that earlier. That's a chip rock bin, and this year you're going to see that bin start to fill up with chip rock. And it is really important that that chip rock, which is a washed product, it's crushed. It's a very specific gradation, and then it gets washed at the plant, and it comes to us clean, and it cannot be contaminated with any other material. So it needs to be in its own bin, completely isolated from dirt or any of the other types of things that are generated from road maintenance activities, because that just gets picked up and put into our chip seal equipment and gets placed on the road. So that it is a large bin, but it will be filled with chip rock, and it needs to remain separate and distinct and uncontaminated from other materials.
Thank you, Colin. The next question is from John Christopherson, and it's a little long one, and I'm going to read the whole thing. How does Public Works prioritize needed maintenance of roadways? Budget considerations, of course, for example, north side of Causeway at Neck Point, which is badly eroded and cheaper to maintain than future replacements. Public Works staff said if residents want repair, quote, they will pay for it themselves, end quote. As this is not a platted county road, is ongoing maintenance a change in policy? So there's two pieces there. How does Public Works prioritize needed road maintenance? And the specific question about the portion of Neck Point Road.
So, and there's a couple parts to the answer. Our chip seal program, which again, we're planning to be on Shaw in 2027, moves around the county, and we try to chip seal every road every 8 to 10-ish years. So we have exceeded the limits of what that is on Shaw. So in the course of moving that program back around to Shaw, I also work with the road maintenance people, which in this instance includes Nick and Jerry, to identify other activities that need to occur. And so those are the boots on the ground, the people have eyes and live and see the transportation system. And I work with them to generate, I think it's probably even more accurate that they inform me of what needs to happen. So this map that's shown here is developed from their information. Again, the people on the ground working and driving and living those roads. And the other part of that
The other
question,
part is, it's near the top of the chat at this point. Specific to their question about a platted county road, is ongoing maintenance a change in policy?
Yeah, I think I'm not quite tracking that, and I'm my contact information is everywhere, but I think I would, that's worthy of a separate phone call where I could get some more information. But there is no policy change being messaged here. I mean, that should be the overall message, is that we are this is regular program maintenance. It's moving back to Shaw. So no policy changes are occurring. If you have a specific question about a specific road, please give me a call.
I see that Councilmember Fuller's hand is up, but before she speaks, Colin, your number is widely available on our public website. I don't know if you want to share it here as well, just in case people are coming around for it. If you want to just put it in the chat, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Jane.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Colin if he might speak a little bit just generally to, and I mean, for those who may not be aware, just Colin, what your department's mandate is with regard to road maintenance, because it's obviously something that taxpayers pay taxes for, is to have roads, county roads maintained. If you could just speak a little bit to, you know, just that fact that this is part of what you do as your department's responsibility mandated by the state.
Sure. Thank you for that, Jane. So maintenance is not, there's two big categories of work that the Public Works does. It's maintenance and then capital. And maintenance is the non-discretionary element of our work. It is not something we can choose to do or not do. It is a duty. It is a responsibility of the county executed through the Public Works Department to take care of our essential public transportation systems. And that is to ensure that our community members can safely and reliably travel throughout the county. So that is a duty and that is a responsibility, and it is absolutely not discretionary maintenance. And that is distinct from capital, where you're talking about building something new or adding a new service or expanding something. So our maintenance program, not discretionary, and then our capital program, as directed by the county council, is our discretionary capital improvements.
Thank you, Colin. Next question from Jan Chamberlain. Will the outlined area be fenced off? So if you scroll, I think down one or two more slides, either that one or the next one, they're the same. Will that space be fenced off? Not just the ecology blocks.
Right. So it is the intent to build this as in the same manner as fashion as the other bin. So I've not contemplated that any further. The site is currently unfenced, and the need right now is to construct another bin. It'll be really important that that space not create a hazard or some kind of nuisance to the public functions next to it. So we'll need to see how it works. And there's plenty of other people who will advise me about how to keep the site secure and safe for the public. But at this time, the plan right now is to construct another bin similar to what is shown it's on the left side of this picture, but it's the south side of the property. But yeah, safety at this facility is important, especially as we move all this equipment and material back in there. There's going to be a lot of activity on that property, especially during the 2 months where we're out there doing work ahead of May and June. Yeah. Jessica, you're muted.
Did everyone see me mouth like darn it as I was muted after 1,000 virtual meetings? The next question is from Jennifer. Although I understand a lawsuit has been filed to stop the NP Neck Point property from being used, I don't really understand what's happening. Can there be more transparency about the suit and what's happening with the property on Neck Point? I can provide a little bit of context on that based on what is publicly available. On November 14th, the San Juan County hearing examiner held a meeting with a notice of appeal from Shaw Island Alliance of the SEPA MDNS, the Mitigated Determination of Non-Significance for the siting of an essential public facility on Shaw Island by the County Council for the property on Neck Point. At this point, there is no decision by the hearing examiner, and I believe the parties are continuing in conversation. So I don't think we have any other updates at this point, but that is the process that is ongoing. It is with the hearing examiner and between the parties. The next question is from Jim Lord. What type of chip seal equipment can we expect to see on Shaw? Where will it be stored when it is not in use? And how will the equipment arrive, ferry or barge?
Well, chip seal equipment there's oil tankers, there's rock distributors, there's oil distributors, there's a number of other support vehicles and dump trucks. And when they are not in use, they are staged and stored on this property. So it will be a very busy property while those activities are worked on intermittently. Of course, when those functions move off the island, the majority of that equipment follows with it. But there's plenty of good examples in a Google search of what a chip seal program would look like and the equipment train that follows it. But it's a little bit bigger than even really a regular asphalt paving operation. But the staging of the equipment and materials does occur on this property. It will be there when at the end of the workday.
And the last part of that question was, would the equipment arrive via ferry or via barge?
Yeah, ferried in at this time. We don't have a conducive barge landing facility to support this at this time on Shaw.
I'm going to take a break from the written questions. I see a hand up from Diana Wiesen. If you can unmute yourself, ask your question, and then mute again. I'll see if I can unmute you. I cannot. Okay, if you are not able to unmute, I'll see if Erin can assist with that, but I'll move on to the next written question while we figure that out. I do see your hand raised though. The next written question is from Lynn Barrage. Can the new bin for ditch spoils be moved across the lot to free up parking next to the community building?
I did, thank you for that. I did talk, obviously, with our equipment operators and our maintenance team about internal circulation. So this graphic kind of better shows how we need to maintain circulation through the site. Some of the equipment that'll be arriving, they are tanker trailers, tractor trailer equipment, and we are not looking to create impossible maneuvers on this property. So we do need to keep this route. It is tight, but it is the best way to keep internal circulation open during construction by putting the bin in that location. So I did look at alternatives, and this is the only space that's available to us to keep internal circulation functional for road maintenance operations.
Okay, thank you. The next question is from Kate Hardy. Is it possible, and this is very similar to the prior question, is it possible to consider swapping the contents of the two bins so that the unsightly debris is mostly behind the shed structure and the pretty and clean chip rock, what's more visible?
Yeah, my understanding is that we will need the larger bin for the amount of chip seal we intend to do. It is an interesting question. I would need to work with our operations team on probably a conceptual plan, which we have not yet put together for the roads to be chip sealed in 27. Like I said, that will be informed based off of the work in 2026, the scope and scale of which roads we will chip seal in 27. It is unlikely that we would be able to utilize the smaller bin for chip rock. But I will take that under advisement. But the footprints certainly would need to be there, and whether or not some material swapping can happen, I would need to consult with the team.
Thanks for at least considering it. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Colin. Next question is from Amber Borner. Does maintenance this year include pothole filling?
Yes. Nick, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I believe you mentioned as part of this year, we would be moving some of the asphalt patching stuff on site. So that's been the limiting factor so far, is that we just don't have that stuff on Shaw yet. So I would see that certainly being possible.
Right, thank you.
And then as a follow-up from that, there's a question from Jan Sandberg. Can the pothole north of the cemetery be filled before 2027? So that's a specific question that I'm sure they can get in touch with you as well again, but.
Nick, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah. As soon as we have the asphalt patching stuff on island, it would be pretty easy to go around and identify the few spots that need a patch right now.
Excellent. Thank you, Nick. Next question is from Tracy. The current chip seal gravel area going to be emptied out first? The piles currently have a lot of horsetails growing up through it.
The residual chip rock that's there now will need to be examined. It's possible that it'll need to be screened. I'm not sure. Some of it might be recycled chip rock, meaning sweepings from the program in 27, 15, and 17. So the chip rock pile that we see there will need to be cleaned and examined to make sure that it can be used for our new chip seal program. But That is normal. That is how we handle our program throughout the county. There is residual rock after the chip seal program that exists on the road, and after a certain period of time, depending on the traffic volume of the road, we do sweep up that rock, and we will deposit that in a pile, and then it is inspected and possibly screened or cleaned for prior to chip seal.
Next question is from Brian Lynch. How long will construction of a new bin take?
Yeah, the best information I have from Jerry and Nick, and primarily who have been talking with suppliers, is that it'll take a couple months to fabricate the blocks, and then we will bring them intermittently as resources allow, staged, and intermittently construct them. So the construction of the bin, it will occur intermittently through February, March as planned. 2 months.
2 months. Thank you. There is a question from Diana Wiesen, who we were unable to get on audio earlier. And there's a question now that says, when will this INJ be removed? But then there's another one later that says, when will this bin remove? When will the bin be removed? So I think those are the same question. So I'm going to interpret, and I think it's when will the bin be removed, the temporary structure?
And as we mentioned, that is entirely dependent on the appeal for the other site by the Shaw Island up Lions Alliance, I think.
There's a comment in here from Amber Borner as a follow-up from a prior question. We had 2 prior questions about either using the current bin or swapping the spoils versus the new. And her comment is, I thought that the community well location precluded storage of the spoils bin being located in the south bin.
Yeah, that is a good question. So, and I appreciate the idea about swapping it. So it is a best practice to, there is also some material, as we dive down on the weeds on the details of this, there is some material that has been deposited here, not in a bin. So which is not ideal to have that next to the community well. So one of the things we are anticipating doing is in the construction of this bin here is to clean up the material which is in this space and move it into the bin. And then preferably you would have no occupation of rural industrial activities within the well zone. But that's how this site exists. That's one of the things that we can talk about with relocating public works operations. But and yeah, I suppose that a case can be made that chip rock is a more appropriate material there than dirt, but ideally nothing occupies the 100-foot well protection zone. So we will, and as I mentioned, we will work to clean up this area here that's outside of the bin and relocate that into our new proposed storage bin, which is a good best practice for the well.
Okay, the next question is from Tracy. What has changed from the chip seal process for Hoffman and Broken Point? No extra bin was necessary for that project or previous culvert cleaning.
So I think what the question is where there isn't a change in the program, but we are ensuring that we have a disposal site and storage site for this facility that is duly properly located or permitted through the county. This is the only property and only location on Shaw that is available to us to store and deposit these materials. We are working on alternatives, but even working on alternatives on county property, it is turning out to be a lengthy process. So until that process plays out, this is the only property that is available to the county to support road maintenance activities.
Okay, the next question is from Brian Lynch. For the discussion with Shaw Inc. about the recycle bins, do you or the county see no problem with circulation during construction for access by San Juan Sanitations to the recycle bins?
Yeah, I think I need more conversations with Shaw Islanders Inc. Like I said, I expect that the board meeting, this will be discussed, and I fully anticipate some feedback from them afterwards, and I'd be happy to meet on site to continue that discussion. But until I have some more information from that private organization, I don't think I have anything more to speak to.
Okay, thank you. At this point, we've got one other question that just popped, or one comment. Thank you for holding this meeting virtually so that those of us who are on the island a lot, but not always, are able to attend, learn, and ask questions. It's appreciated. Two more questions just cropped up. One from John Christofferson. Sea level rise and Blind Bay Road, raise or relocate, capital plans for such a significant undertaking and timing. So a lot of pieces to that question, and I'm sure part of that is predicated on the very recent sea level rise conversations on all of our ferry served islands. For folks who weren't able to attend, our Department of Environmental Stewardship, in collaboration with Councilmember Fuller and our Public Works Department, hosted a meeting on Shaw, and the specific example was Blind Bay Road. That road's been on our, I don't know if it's on the tip right now or if it's on the priority array, but it's been on our list of to-dos for a while now. Colin, do you recall where it lives in our documentation right now?
It's on our 6-year transportation improvement program. Work has not commenced yet, but it is on our plan.
Yeah. So part of the process of engaging with your community about that was to try and gauge general consensus and feedback around what community priorities might be about moving, relocating, armoring, all of those pieces there. TBD on which ones may come. All of them cost a lot of money, whether or not you relocate the road or you armor the road or you raise the road. It all costs quite a bit. And trying to make sure that we are good stewards of the dollars that we have and also ensure that you have a sustainable roadway is important. I see that Councilmember Fuller has her hand raised.
Yeah, thank you, Jessica. Just to that question raised by John Christofferson, that sea level rise meeting where we discussed this and had some workshop participation by those present, that was an initial and early discussion. Anything that the county is going to explore moving forward on will be further consulted on with the community. So the county, while we may have some indication as to work that needs to be done on Blind Bay Road, given rising seas and the impacts on that road that we have already seen, we will not be taking decisions of a concrete and specific nature without further consultation with the community. So that's what I want to offer up and be sure everyone is clear on.
Thank you, Jane. Much appreciated. Okay, it looks like we have 2 additional questions, and we are, just as a brief time check, it's 11:50. We've got about 10 minutes left in the scheduled meeting. Can always wrap early if there's no additional questions, but we'll keep going up through the end of time. Next question is for Alice Nelson. You are aware that the Shaw Community Alliance does not include the entire Shaw community, the entire community of Shaw Island, correct? Just to make certain they don't necessarily include the option of all Shaw Islanders. Yes, I think the county is aware that that is a subset of the Shaw community. And the next question is from Tracy, and this is a refresh of a prior question. What was done with the materials during the Hoffman Broken Point chip seal project, and what has changed?
I don't have any records of where that material was deposited, but I do know that if any work that happens today on Shaw, the county takes responsibility for the material generated during road maintenance activities and needs to have a duly cited location to deposit it. This picture we have on the screen is an example of the county replacing a culvert. This happens just to be on Lopez Island, but it gives a good example of the type of work we're contemplating doing on Shaw, replacing culverts. And this material that's collected and generated from this work is the type of material that will be stored on the Blind Bay property. As I said, it is the only property that the county has available to us today.
Thank you, Colin. A question from John Christofferson. A minor cost item, but important safety issue is the blind hill near the ferry landing. One suggestion is a mirror. So I think they are
Yeah.
recommending we place a mirror at the area where there's a blind spot.
Okay, I did feel the question from the community about that, and my response was that mirrors are not approved traffic safety control devices. And if the county were to install a non-approved traffic safety control device, there is it puts the public at risk and the county at risk. Mirrors have this is really off topic, and I'm happy to talk about this question in more detail if someone would like to reach out to me, but mirrors do not reliably or consistently provide accurate information for drivers to make decisions. And so that is the science and traffic professionals' position, which is why it is not an approved traffic safety control device. If you do see mirrors in your travels throughout the county, they're likely installed on private property by private property owners, in which case the county wouldn't be party to its installation.
Okay, thank you, Colin. And for everyone here, I think you have picked up on Colin is a font of information, and he is also very willing to chat. So if you do have specific questions about specific intersections or anything public works related, he is happy to be of assistance and just have a conversation. Next question is from Jennifer. Sorry, I'm reorienting myself. How would public works be proceeding now had a lawsuit not been filed? And just to be clear, the item that I mentioned earlier was an appeal of our SEPA determination. It was not a lawsuit. And I think the county would be proceeding forward with public works road maintenance in all instances. We are trying to make sure that we fulfill our mandatory baseline obligations for safe, accessible roadways. That we are using our currently owned property on Blind Bay is we own that property and we will be using it, but we want to make sure that we are doing what we can to make sure that the roadways on Shaw are accessible, open, safe, clear, usable, good culverts, all those things. I see Councilmember Fuller has her hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. I mean, I think it's safe to say, or safe to provide the opportunity for Colin to perhaps speak to how we might be proceeding if the SEPA had not been appealed but had been accepted and we were proceeding. I don't know if Colin wants to speak in the hypothetical. I think it's safe to say that we would be, if the process had unfolded as anticipated, such that Public Works could be using that property for the kinds of purposes it needs to be using the property at discussion today, that would be the direction we'd be proceeding in. I think that's fairly clear. Public Works is required to follow a proper process in terms of ensuring that properties are allowed to be utilized for the purposes for which they've been purchased. And there has been an appeal to the process that Public Works was moving forward with. And so that's really, Colin, unless you want to add anything, I don't think there's anything else to say.
Okay.
The picture I have on the screen is from 2008, and it's, like I mentioned before, it's before the current bin for Chiprock was constructed. So we have grown into this space, and we're talking about continue to grow into the space. And I think what Jane and what we have attempted to do in our previous meetings was to provide an alternate space to grow into, and so to grow away from this space. So that was the vision contemplated. But until then, we are continuing to grow into this space.
Thank you, Colin. Thank you again, Councilmember Fuller. We're at 11:55. I see that we have 3 remaining questions in the chat. So I think if feasible, we'll run through those questions. But if you have additional questions, all of us are available to talk further at future moments in time. I just don't know that we'll be able to get through too many more after this. Jane, did you have something else to add? I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was kind of wavering in whether to put my hand up or not. I'm just conscious that the person named Tracy is wanting to know about the history, and so perhaps that individual could. I apologize. I'm not sure your last name or contact. But I think Colin is more than available to speak to sort of some of what has happened historically. I think he's speaking to what needs to happen going forward, and having having the exposure and experience he does with what's happened previously. So I think if there's an interest in further discussing what's been done historically, that can be done offline. And yeah, so that's what I wanted to offer.
Excellent. Thank you, Jane. I see that Erin, our communications coordinator, has her hand up.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to take a second to address one of the questions about communications. What type of notice will you give to residents for specific dates and impacts on road maintenance? And I just wanted to share that Public Works does a great job of letting me know as a communications person what projects they're working on, and all of that is pushed out through our website. So I will make sure to drop a link in the chat, but you can sign up for those updates to be sent directly to your email inbox. Those updates are also posted to our social media accounts. So if you follow us on Facebook, that's a great place to find it. And then we also are fortunate to have a great relationship with our local publications. So you'll often see those notices included in places like the San Juan Journal, the Sounder, the Weekly, things like that. So that is one of the best ways to get information about public works projects, is to be looking on the county website, signing up for those email notifications. And again, I'll drop a link here in the chat so that you can sign up for those and other county news as you would like. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Erin. Okay. Oops, one more person joining. There's a question. The next question in here is from John Christofferson, and it asks, a larger item, but important, is a water taxi landing near the ferry landing. I'm going to suggest we table that one for a future conversation. It is slightly less on the topic of public works road maintenance, but a fascinating question nonetheless that maybe we can talk about in the future. Amber Borner asked, if access from the ferry was not possible due to damage, earthquake, or road collapse, how would the county move equipment and materials to the island, since you say there is no suitable barge landing for large equipment? Ooh. And if someone has a pup in the background and wouldn't mind muting themselves, that would be lovely.
Yeah, we would be challenged without the ferry, I think is the short answer. There are a number of very creative and capable marine-based entities that would help that we have worked with in the past. So if there was an emergency, we would find a way to respond. I want to first give you those assurances. So we will find a way to get necessary work done. But without the ferries, we are extremely challenged. Even with the ferries, just getting on and off Shaw, we are extremely challenged in the operational logistics of doing work on Shaw.
Okay, thank you, Colin. I see that Erin just posted in the chat with how you can sign up for notifications about county news, specifically road maintenance news. And it is also just a minute shy of noon. So I'm going to turn the baton back over to Councilmember Fuller to kind of wrap us up here and share any feedback that she might have. If anyone has any additional questions, though, please don't hesitate to reach directly out to Colin, myself, Councilmember Fuller, really whoever you think might be able to assist you. Jane?
Thanks, Jessica. I do see the question of Amber Borner regarding the Neck Point property, asking if it is changed rural industrial, would housing still be permitted on the property? And I just want to be clear, as my colleagues were up front, that this discussion is specifically about the road maintenance and chip seal programming that we need to proceed with. So we're not discussing other issues regarding Neck Point property at this time. And again, Colin is available if you would like to follow up with him directly to ask him any further questions about other issues. In terms of Ms. Tracy asking no extra road, why is there need to grow the footprint on Shaw? Colin, do you have would you like to speak to
Sure.
what you said about needing to grow into the footprint on Shaw?
Yeah, and in the context of growing, doesn't necessarily mean that our transportation footprint has grown. It means that the county's practices have grown, evolved, matured. And so in this context, the means and methods of 20 years ago are not the means and methods of how road work is stewarded and cared for, in particular of our responsibility to the environment and to the material that's generated. So our practices have grown and matured over time as every industry does. And so the best practices now, as required by our rules and regulations, is that we manage and steward the material that we generate through road maintenance operations, which means we need to have a place to steward and manage those materials. So that is the growth that I'm referring to. It's the growing of our stewardship of how we take care of our transportation facilities. Thank you for that question.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. That was, I think, quite a helpful explanation. And Jessica, if you're okay, I think we can call it a wrap because we're 12:01. I do want to note, though, that there seems to be an appreciation and acknowledgement, interest in this online forum for this purpose, and that is well noted. And I think our county staff, myself with staff, will certainly take into consideration how best to conduct forums like this going forward to ensure as many people can participate as possible. I do appreciate there's a lot of movement on and off Shaw, and certainly we can't get the timing of that always right in terms of knowing who's where and when. So we'll strive to have a good balance of this kind of meeting in the future. I think, as some of you are aware, it is difficult to do hybrid meetings out of your community center. That frankly is the challenge we faced as a county in the recent past since I've been on council. And I think, we can certainly discuss with the Shaw Inc. folks, their board, about how best to try to provide hybrid meetings in the future. So thanks very much for that feedback.
Yeah. Thank
Thanks,
you,
everybody.
everyone. We are so thrilled that so many people joined us for this. We appreciate your feedback and your time. Go have a healthy, hearty lunch, and I'm sure we will chat again soon about more Shaw topics. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thanks to the staff of the county and everyone who participated.
Thank you, Jane. Goodbye, everyone.